And next, I would like to invite Mr. Veemal Gungadin, founder and CEO of Gevme, to present data in the age of omnichannel events. Now, Gevme participated in STB's data analytics shift program and has pivoted their business since COVID. So please join me to welcome Veemal.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Veemal and I'm from Gevme. For those of you who are not familiar, so Gevme is a tech company. So we provide technology solutions for events in all sorts of formats, in-person, virtual, hybrid. And we work a lot within the MICE industry, with government, and also with enterprises, with brands, and you can see some of the logos here. So just a quick introduction on that. So I wanted to share with you a little bit of our data journey. And here I'm going to focus a little bit on the past 2 years, what we've been doing the past 2 years in terms of our own data journey, our own data transformation. So the first thing that we put into place was the team. It all starts with the team, but how do you build a capable team? And that's when we got introduced to the STB's Dash program. And we went all in there. So we ensured that we had at least people from different departments within the company, but at least people who will be able to come back and then drive changes. So that was important for us. So end of the day, I mean, Dash program, there's lots of things that you learn out of it. But if you put aside all the academic value of it, what really helped in our case was really help to drive a certain mindset change, to uncover relevant and practical data applications, and then to bring about this change within our organization itself. And the next thing that we did was to ensure that there would be democratization of data. What do I mean by that? It's like making data available across different teams: sales, marketing, product, customer success, leadership, right? And when I say data here, I'm just using it in the loose sense of it, but it's really process data, where you abstract all the difficult part of it and then make it available across departments. And what was also important for us was to make these data available across different tools. So like data shouldn't be the specific area of specific departments, like using BI tools, doing queries, complex queries and all that, even though we do that, but making the data accessible in channels like email, through reports, dashboards, or right within our CRM tools itself. So that was very key for us to ensure that transformation. And equally important was actually to really define, like we can just talk about data in the big sense of it, but to define really the different use cases. So we wanted to focus really on our own internal sales, because we do enterprise sales. Like how could we leverage on data to do forecasting of meetings? How could we look at emails that our salespeople were sending out to do sentiment analysis and to see where objections was happening, and then what were the objections. So rather than going through each and every email, like this could be done in mass. The next thing is, like I mentioned, we provide virtual platforms, right? So we saw the opportunity to really, and for the past 2 years, as you know, that really boomed, right? How could we analyze the data and then come up with certain industry benchmarks? And then the next thing is, how could we use our own set of data as a market sensing lens to derive what are future trends that are up and coming? So today, I'd like to take these two areas and then to share a bit more with you about it. So the first thing is virtual industry benchmarks. I'm going to share a bit of some of the benchmarks that we have done. And this whole journey started from an exercise, actually, and an exercise that we learned out of Dash, a question storm. So where you basically start asking all sorts of questions that you think might be relevant, and then you start classifying it, whether it's relevant, whether you have the data to be able to generate this and all that. So we did that exercise, filtered that, and then came up with some benchmarks that we thought would be useful for the industry. So today I'm just going to share with you a sample of that. So the first thing was, if let's say you're running a virtual event, and by the way, this would apply also for a hybrid event. If you're doing online registration for people to attend, be it free or paid, when should you actually close the registration? Now, this is very typical. As an industry, the MICE industry is used to that. It's like closed registration right before the event starts, or even in some cases, a few days before the event starts. Now, what happens if you do that? If you would have left your registration, for example, open during the event and after the event, this is what we see as today being the industry standard. If you leave it open during the event, during the day or days of your event, you can expect an additional bump of 18% of additional people registering, especially if your content is good. The numbers will go even higher because people do sharing right within the event and then getting their colleagues to join in, right? If you leave it open after the event, you can get a bump of an additional 10% registration. So again, depending on the nature of your event, whether it's free, whether it's for branding purposes, whether it's for lead generation purposes, I thought these will be very key metrics for us all to see and understand as an industry. The next thing is virtual events. What's the average attendance rate, right? So here what we saw was it's 55%, right? Quite low compared to physical events, but if you're doing more than that, then you're above industry average. And then the thing is, after an event is over, how many people come back to view the content of the event if you make it available? If you make it available, it's actually quite a big proportion. More than half, 56% will come back and view that. And the next thing is how many people come to the event, not during the event days or day, but after the event for the first time. It's actually 15% who would be coming in. These are obviously new people who are registering, and also people who didn't manage to catch it and then coming back. So that showed us, like, for example, events content has a shelf life. What do we define as a shelf life? This chart, what it's showing you here is the days after an event. How many people are coming back to the platform, whatever that is, to access the content? So this is obviously based on our own platform, amalgamated, right? But you can see that the traffic decays over time. But what we've been able to find out here is that there is indeed a shelf life for digital content. And today the benchmark is 46 days. So when you create great content out of your event, in fact, for the next 46 days, without doing much of activities, you will probably get people coming back to the platform, to the content, to consume that, because that's still fresh, right? So lots of opportunity there. So the next thing that we looked at is in the case of live events. If there is a live stream, how many people will actually end up watching the full live stream? What we found out was it's actually 45%. So people will watch only 45% of a live stream. The next thing is video on demand. You make videos available. So some events make the full event as an 8-hour video, as a 2-hour video, as a 1-hour video. But how much of it people actually watch? And in this case here, what we found that it's not about the percentage, but it's the actual value, which is true regardless of the length of the event. And that magic number is actually 19 minutes. So people would spend on average 19 minutes to watch on-demand content. So if you're creating videos that are much more than that, then you're going to be aware of this. And the other thing that I wanted to share also is some of the trends and insights that we've been seeing. And I wanted to start with here. There's Gina, who is a CMO from Charles River Laboratories. She has got the typical profile of what we would call an exhibitor, so selling B2B to a B2B audience. And what CMOs today, what she's saying today is that she's already seeing value of virtual platforms, but at the same time, she's looking at ways of optimizing live engagement, meaning in person, right? So that's her opinion. But there's another study which I wanted to probably bring here, and this is a very recent survey from McKinsey. And here it talks about B2B buyers. So think of B2B buyers as your attendees for your events, right? For your trade shows, for your conferences. So today, 2/3 of B2B buyers actually prefer digital channel as opposed to in-person. In fact, for the first time, B2B e-commerce doing transaction online has actually surpassed, if you see that, in-person in terms of engagement channels. And B2B buyers today are actually using more channels. So back in 2016, it used to be 5 channels. What we are seeing today is B2B buyers will go through up to 10 channels on average, interacting with suppliers through emails, attending shows, through phone, in person as well is one of the important channels here, right? When we look at it from the other side, like in terms of exhibitors now. So back to Gina, like what are they planning to do? So B2B suppliers, who are typically the exhibitors at events, are looking at events a little bit differently, because it's no more just about the event itself, but it's like, for example, yes, participating at a trade show, but what is it that you're going to do pre-event as your own marketing activities, during event and post-event? Like, for example, here, as you can see, lots of exhibitors plan to spend 60% of their time on pre-event content on social media communities, right? So on LinkedIn and stuff, during event as well, and then post-event as well. So 60% say they will spend time on these engagement channels. And in fact, the list goes on, because there are now much more engagement channels that exhibitors are going after in the context of an event. Like, for example, they will do Facebook live streaming for consumer shows, live streaming online lessons, doing even their own events, educational events right during the show. So there's a whole bunch of activities that now sponsors want to organize themselves during, before, during, and after a show, or get help on. That was probably a little bit confusing, but what does that mean, right, for events? What we think that means for events is that the future of events is omnichannel. What do I mean by that? It used to be the day where like shows, events was pretty much physical. And then we've seen that for the past 2 years, virtual. And then now there's the talk that it's hybrid, where it's really, combination of the physical and virtual. But what's really happening as a trend today is omnichannel, where the customer is put right at the center, and then there's a whole bunch of engagement channels, both in person and digital, that happens. So for everybody who is saying, like, for example, hey, nothing beats face-to-face, face-to-face is not going to go away, that's true. Because 1/3 of B2B buyers out there will always be doing in-person engagement. But the rest, 2/3, is today digital, right? So just some quick tips here. Like, what are some of the strategies that organizers can use? And we see that as some of the strategies to use for an omni-channel context is the possibility to use micro-events, micro-content, and micro-transaction. So what do I mean by that? Like, for example, now it's no more about just running one event and then engaging customers just during that timing itself, but it's about doing a whole year-long engagement. And that's what micro events can help to do. And that doesn't mean that you don't do like a big show anymore. Micro events could actually help to boost attendance and fidelity and loyalty for your main events. This chart that you're seeing here is what we're seeing as an average of forward-looking organizers who've been adopting this strategy. And one of which is actually Web in Travel. Like last year, they ran 6 roadshows. They choose to call that roadshows. And that took the form of virtual events, but not just virtual events. Some of them were in-person, hybrid, but small scale. And this whole thing actually led to the main event itself, which was at MBS, obviously in person. But then guess what? With the digital component as well in there. So hybrid event, right? The next thing is around micro content. So back to the same example of WIT here. So today, what they have is a 365 content library where you can go in there to watch all the bite-sized content that they've been creating. But then it's not just promoting it on your own channels, but promoting it on different channels through email, through blog posts. And that's what events create. And then using this micro content strategy, you're able to reach out to your customers, engage your customers even more. And lastly, micro transaction. Monetization has been a big thing within the MICE industry. How do we monetize in this new world? What I have for you here is just an example of what's being tried today. And I thought that's pretty cool. FinTech Festival is an event that happened right during the event. On top of watching the whole show and all that, what you could do was, you know what, pay an additional amount of money to be able to get a certificate. And today the event is over, but you can still go register and then pay $25 to watch all the content and then to, you know what, go through the certification process and get that. And I think that's what probably we need, really lots of experimentation with regards to microtransaction itself. And with that, I want to thank you all.
Thank you so much, Veemal. It was very nice to see you and also to hear from your insightful presentation. And we hope to catch you again in person very soon. Thank you.